Once again, I want to remind you this is a Bible project by Christ Embassy Weja, uh, and we are also embarking on getting 10,000 copies of Holy Bible for 10,000 souls. So you can partner with us by contributing sponsoring a particular copies of Bible, and a copy of our Bible is 100 Ghana cedis. So we have been reading from Genesis. We are done with the book of First Samuel. We are now in the second book of Samuel. And we want to thank our single pastor, Sir and Deacon for the privilege given us to be reading the scriptures. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma. We are eternally grateful. So we continue from the book of Second Samuel, chapter 1. After Saul's death, David came back from his victory over the Amalekites and stayed in Ziklag for 2 days. The next day, a young man arrived from Saul's camp. To show his grief, he had torn his cloth and put it on his head. He went to David and bowed to the ground in respect. David asked him, "Where have you come from?" "I've escaped from the Israelite camp," he answered. "Tell me what happened." David said, "Our army ran away from the battle." He replied, "Many of our men were killed. Saul and his son Jonathan were also killed." "How do you know that Saul and Jonathan are dead?" David asked him. He answered, "I happened to be and I saw that Saul leaning on his spear, and that the chariot of the and horsemen of the enemy were closing in on him. Then he turned around and saw me and called me, and I answered, 'Yes, sir.' He asked who I was, and I told him that I was an Amalekite. Then he said, 'Come here and kill me. I have been badly wounded and I'm about to die.' So I went up to him and killed him, because I knew that he would die anyway as soon as he fell. Then I took the crown from his head and the bracelet from his arm, and I brought them to you, sir." David tore his cloth in sorrow, and all his men did the same. They grieved and mourned and fasted until evening for Saul and Jonathan for Israel, the people of the Lord, because of so many had been killed in battle. David asked the young man who had brought him this news, "Where are you from?" He said, "I am a Amalekite, but I live in your country." David asked him, "How is it that you dare to kill the Lord's chosen king?" Gosh. Then David called one of his men and said, "Kill him." The man struck the Amalekite and mortally wounded him. And David said to the Amalekites, "You brought this on yourself. You condemned yourself when you admitted that you killed the one whom the Lord chose to be king." David sang this lament for Saul and his son Jonathan and ordered it to be taught to the people of Judah. It is recorded in the book of Jasher. "On the hills of Israel, our leaders are dead. The bravest of our soldiers are fallen. Do not announce it in Gath. Do not make a woman of France rejoice. May no rain or dew fall on Gibeah's hill. May its fields be always barren. For the shields of the brave lie there in disgrace. The shield of Saul is no longer polished with oil. Jonathan's bow was deadly. The sword of Saul was merciless, striking down the mighty and killing the enemy. Saul and Jonathan, so wonderful and dear, together in life, together in death, safer than eagles, stronger than lions. Women of Israel mourn for Saul. He clothed you in rich sacred dresses and adorned you with jewels and gold. The brave soldiers are fallen. They were killed in battle. Jonathan lies dead in the hills. I grieve for you, my brother Jonathan. How dear you were to me. How wonderful was your love for me, better than the love of women. The brave soldiers are fallen. their weapons abandoned and useless. The end of chapter 1.
Alright. Please, I take the chapter 2. After this, David inquired of the Lord, Shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah? And the Lord said to him, Go up. David said, To which shall I go up? And he said, To Hebron. So David went up there, and his two wives also, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David brought up his men who were with him, every one with his household, and they dwelt in the towns of Hebron. And the men of Judah came. They anointed David king over the house of Judah. When they told David it was the men of Jabesh of Gilead who buried Saul, David sent messengers to the men of Jabesh of Gilead and said to them, May you be blessed by the Lord, because he showed his loyalty to Saul your Lord, and buried him. Now may the Lord show steadfast love and faithfulness to you, and I will do good to you because you have done this thing. Now therefore let your hands be strong and be valiant, for Saul your Lord is dead, and the house of Judah has anointed me king over them. Has anointed me king over them. Now Abner, the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, had taken Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim, and he made him king over Gilead and the Ashutites, and Jezreel, the Ephraim, and Benjamin, and all Israel. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David. And the time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 70 years and 6 months. Abner, the son of Ner, and the servant of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon, and Joab, the son of Jezreel, and the servants of David went out and met them at the pool of Gibeon, and they sat down, the one on the one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. And Abner said to Joab, Let the young men arise and play before us. And Joab said, Let them arise. Then they arose and passed over by number 12 for Benjamin, and Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 of the servants of David. And each caught his opponent by the head, and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, so they fell down together. Therefore that place was called Helkath Hazuarim, which is at Gibeon, and the battle was very fierce that day. And Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. And the three sons of Jeruiah were there, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Now Asahel was as swift of foot as a wild gazelle, and Asahel persuaded Abner, and as he went, he turned neither to the right hand nor to the left from following Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, Is it you, Asahel? And he answered, It is I. Abner said to him, Turn aside to your right hand or to your left, and seize one of the young men and take his spoil. But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. And Abner said to Asahel, Turn aside from following me. Why should I smite you to the ground? How then could I lift up my face to your brother Joab? But he refused to turn aside. Therefore Abner smote him in the belly with the butt of his spear, so that the spear came out at his back. He fell there and died where he was, and all who came to the place where Asahel had fallen and died stood still. But Joab and Abishai persuaded Abner, and as the sun was going down, they came to the hill of Ammah, which lies before Giah on the way to the wilderness of Gibeon. And the Benjamites gathered themselves together behind Abner, and became one band and took their stand on the top of a hill. Then Abner called to Joab, Shall the sword devour forever? Do you not know that the end will be bitter? How long will it be before you bid your people turn from pursuit of their brethren? And Joab said, As God lives, if he had not spoken, surely the men would have given up the pursuit of their brethren in the morning. So Joab blew the trumpets, and all the men stopped and persuaded Israel no more, nor did they fight any more. And Abner and his men went all that night through the Arabah. They crossed the Jordan and marching the whole forenoon, they came to Mahanaim. Joab returned from the pursuit of Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, they were missing of David's servants 19 men besides Asahel. But the servants of David had slain of Benjamin 360 of Abner's men, and they took of Asahel and buried him in the tomb of his father, which was at Bethlehem. And Joab and his men marched all night, and the day broke upon them at Hebron. Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. Chapter 3. The fighting between the forces supporting Saul's family and those supporting David went on for a long time. As David became stronger and stronger, his opponent became weaker and weaker. Kappa, sheka, papa. The following six sons, in order of their birth, were born to David in Hebron. Amnon, whose mother was Achinnah from Jezreel. Caleb, whose mother was Abigail, Nabal's widow from Carmel. Absalom, whose mother was Maacah, the daughter of King Tamar of Gosha. Adonijah, whose mother was Haggite. Shephatai, whose mother was Abitha. Italim, whose mother was Hagar. All of these sons were born in Hebron. As the fighting continued between David's forces and the forces loyal to Saul's family, Abner became more and more powerful among Saul's followers. One day, Ishbosheth, son of Saul, accused Abner of sleeping with Saul's concubine, Rizpah, and the daughter of Uriah. This made Abner furious. Do you think that I will betray Saul? Do you really think I am serving Judah? He exclaimed. From the very first, I have been loyal to the cause of your father Saul, his brothers and his families, his friends. I have saved you from being defeated by David. Yet today you find fault with me about a woman. The Lord promised David that he will take the kingdom away from Saul. His descendant will make David king above Israel and Judah, from one end of the country to the another. Now may God strike me dead if I don't make this come true. Ishbosheth was so afraid of Abner that he could not say a word. Abner sent messengers to David, who at that time was at Hebron, to say, Who is going to rule this land? Make an agreement with me. I will help you win this Israel over your side. Good, David answered, I will make an agreement with you on one condition. You must bring Saul's daughter Michal to me when you come to see me. And David also sent messengers to Ishbosheth to say, Give me back my wife Michal. I paid 100 Philistine foreskins in order to marry her. So Ishbosheth took her away from her husband, Paltiel, the son of Lash. Paltiel followed her all the way to the town of Bahurim, crying as he went. But when Abner said, Go back home, he said, Abner went to the leaders of Israel and said to them, For a long time you have wanted David to be your king. Now here is your chance. Remember that the Lord has said, I will use my servant David to rescue my people Israel from the Philistines and from all their other enemies. Abner spoke also to the people of the tribe of Benjamin, and then went to Hebron to tell David what the people of Benjamin and of Israel had agreed to do. When Abner came to David at Hebron with 20 men, David gave the feast for them. Abner told them, I'll go now and win all Israel over to your majesty. They will accept you as king. Then you will get what you have wanted and you will rule over the whole land. David gave Abner a guarantee of safety and sent him on his way. Later, Joab, David's other officials returned from a raid, bringing a large amount of fruit with them. Abner, however, was no longer there at Hebron with David, because David had sent him away with a guarantee of safety. When Joab and his men arrived, he was told that Abner had come to David and had been sent away with a guarantee of safety. So Joab went to King David and said to him, What have you done? Abner came to you. Why did you let him go like that? He came here to deceive you and to find out everything you do and everywhere you go. Surely you know that. After leaving David, Joab sent messengers to get Abner, and they brought him back from the well of Sirah. But David knew nothing about it. When Abner arrived to Hebron, Joab took him aside at the gate, as though he wanted to speak privately with him. Then he stabbed him in the belly. And so Abner was murdered because he had killed Joab's brother Asahel. When David heard the news, he said, The Lord knows that my subjects and I are completely innocent of the murder of Abner. May the punishment for it fall on Joab and all his family. In every generation, may there be some man in his family who has gonorrhea or a dreaded skin disease, or fit only to do a woman's work, or is killed in a battle, or hasn't enough to eat. So Joab and his brother Abishai took revenge on Abner for killing their brother Asahel in the battle of Gibeon. Then David ordered Joab and his men to tear their clothes, wear sackcloth, and mourn for Abner. And at the funeral, King David himself walked behind the coffin. Abner was buried in Hebron. The king wept around at the grave, and so did all the people. David sang this lament for Abner. Why did Abner have to die like a fool? His sons were not tied, his feet were not bound. He died like someone killed by criminals, and all the people wait for him again. All day long, the people tried to get David to eat something, but he made a sudden promise. May God strike me dead if I eat anything before the day is over. They took note of this and were pleased. Indeed, everything the king did pleased the people. All David's people and all people in Israel understood that the king had no part in the murder of Abner. The king said to his officials, Don't you realize that this day is a great leader in Israel has died? Even though I am the king chosen by God, I feel weak today. These sons of Jeruel are too violent for me. May God punish these criminals as they deserve. The end of chapter 3. Your voice is not clear. Let me continue with chapter 4. When Saul got had been killed in Hebron, he was afraid, and all the people of Israel were alarmed. Ishobed had two officers who were leaders of raiding parties, Banab and Raka, sons of Rimmon. From Beroth in the tribe of Benjamin, Beroth is counted as part of Benjamin. Each original inhabitant had fled to Gittim, where they have lived ever since. Where they have lived ever since. Another descendant of Saul was Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, who was 5 years old when Saul and Jonathan were killed. When the news brought their death came from the city of Jezreel, a nurse picked him up and fled. But she was in such a hurry that she dropped him, and he became crippled. Ragba and Bana set out for Ishbosheth's house and arrived there about noon, where he was taking his midday rest. The woman at the door had become drowsy while she was stuffing wheat and had fallen asleep. So Ragab and Bana slipped in. Once inside, they went to Mephibosheth's bedroom, where he was sound asleep, and killed him. Then they cut off his head, took it with them, and walked all night through the Jordan Valley, and they present the head of King David. They present the head to King David at Hebron, and said to him, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, the son of your enemy, who tried to kill you. Today the Lord has swallowed your majesty to take revenge on Saul and his descendant." David answered, "I make a vow by the living Lord, who has saved me from all dangers. The messengers who came to me as Ziklag told me of such death, thought he was bringing good news. I seized him and hung him to put to death. But that was that was the reward I gave him for his good news. How much was it to be for evil men who murder an innocent man asleep in his own house? I will not take revenge on you for murdering him and will wipe you off the face of the earth." David gave the order, and the soldiers said they killed Rehoboth and Bana and cut off their hands and feet, which they hung up near the pool of Hebron. They took Rehoboth's head and buried it in Abner's tomb, where there at Hebron. The end of chapter 4.
Glory to God. Please, am I? Chapter 5.
Yes.
Then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "Behold, we are your bone and flesh. In time past, when David was king over us, it was you that led out and brought in Israel. And the Lord said to you, You shall be shepherd of my people Israel, and you shall be prince over Israel." So all the elders of Israel came king of to the king at Hebron. And King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord. And they anointed David king over
So we continue as we face the technical issues. So David was 30 years old when he became a king. He ruled for 40 years. That is chapter 5, verses 4. 30 years. He became king. He ruled for 40 years and ruled in Hebron over Judah for 7.5 years. In Jerusalem, all the Israel and Judah for 33 years. The time came when King David and his men set out to attack Jerusalem. The Jebusites who lived there thought that David would not be able to conquer the city. So they said to him, "You will never get here. Even the blind and the crippled could keep you out." But David did capture the fortress of Zion and became known as David's city. That David said to his men, "Does anyone here hate the Jebusites as much as I do? Enough to kill them. Go up through the water and turn the water tunnel and attack those poor blind cripples." That is why it is said, "The blind and the crippled cannot enter the Lord's house." After capturing the fortress, David lived in it and named it David City. He built the city around it, starting at the place where land was filled in it on the east side of the hill. He grew stronger all the time because the Lord Almighty was with him. King Hiram of Tyre sent a trade mission to David. He provided him with cedar logs and with carpenters and stonemasons to build a palace. And so David realized that the Lord had established him as king of Israel and was making his kingdom prosperous for the sake of his people. After moving from Hebron to Jerusalem, David took more concubines and wives and had more sons and daughters. The following children were born to him in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobah, Nathan, Solomon, Habital, Lishwa, Lepa, Jabiah, Elishama, Eliada, Eliphalet. The Philistines were told that David had been a king of Israel, so their army set out to capture him. When David heard of it, he went down to a fortified place. The Philistines arrived at the valley of Rephaim and occupied it. David asked the Lord, "Shall I attack the Philistines? Will you give me victory?" "Yes, attack," the Lord answered. "I will give you victory." So David went to Baal Perazim. There he defeated the Philistines. He said, "The Lord has broken through my enemies like a flood." And so the place is called Baal Perazim. When the Philistines fled, they left their idols behind. David and his men carried them away. When the Philistines went back to the valley of Rephaim, occupy it again, once more David consulted the Lord, who answered, "Don't attack them from here, but go around, get ready to attack from the other side, near the balsam tree. When you hear the sound of marching in the treetops, then attack, because I'll be marching ahead of you to defeat the Philistines' army." David did what the Lord had commanded and was able to drag the Philistines back from Geba all the way to Jezreel. Lord Almighty, who is enthroned above the winged creatures. They took it from Abinadab's home on the hill and placed it on the new chart. Uzzah, Uzzah and Ayo, sons of Abinadab, were guiding the chart, with Ayo walking in front, and David and all his Israelites were dancing and singing with all their might to honor the Lord. They were playing house lights and drums and rattles and cymbals. As they came to the threshing place of Nacon, the oxen stumbled, and Uzzah reached out and took hold of the covenant box. At once the Lord became angry with Uzzah and killed him because of his irreverence. Uzzah died there beside the covenant box, and so that the place was called Perez Uzzah ever since. David was furious because the Lord had punished Uzzah in anger. Then David was afraid of the Lord and said, "How can I take the covenant box with me now?" So he decided not to take it with him to Jerusalem. Instead, he returned up the road and took it to the house of Obed Edom, a native of the city of Gath. He stayed there 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed Edom and his family. King David heard that because the covenant box of the Lord had blessed Obed Edom's family and all that he had. So he fetched the covenant box from the Obed house to take it to Jerusalem with a great celebration. After men carrying the covenant box had gone 6 steps, David made them stop while he offered the Lord a sacrifice of bull and fatted calf. David, wearing only a linen cloth around his waist, danced with all his might to honor the Lord. So he and all the Israel took the covenant box up to Jerusalem with a shout of joy and the sound of trumpets. As the box was being brought into the city, Micah, Saul's daughter, looked out in the window and saw David dancing and jumping around in the sacred dance, and she was disgusted with him. They brought the box and put it in the place of the tent that David had set up for it. When he offered sacrifice and fellowship offering to the Lord, when he had finished offering the sacrifice, he blessed the people in the name of the Almighty and distributed food to them all. He gave each man and woman in Israel a loaf of bread, a piece of roasted meat, and some raisins, and even everyone went home. Then everyone went home. Afterwards, when David went home to greet his family, Micah came out to meet him. "The king of Israel made a big name of himself today," she said. "He exposed himself like a fool in the sight of the servants of women of his officials." David answered, "I was dancing to honor the Lord, who chose me instead of your father and his family to make me the leader of his people Israel. And I will go on dancing to honor the Lord, and I will disgrace myself even more. You may think I am nothing, but those women will think highly of me." Because Saul's daughter never had any children. Chapter 7. King David was settled in his palace, and the Lord kept him safe from all his enemies. Then King David said to prophet Nathan, "Here I am living in a house built of cedar, but God's house in a carbon box he kept in a tent." Nathan said, "Do whatever you have in mind, because the Lord is with you." But that night the Lord said to Nathan, "Go and tell my servant David that I say to him, you are not the only one to build a temple for me to live in. From the time I rescued the people of Israel from Egypt until now, I never live in a temple. I have traveled around living in a tent. In all my traveling with the people of Israel, I have never asked any of the leaders that I appointed why they have not built me a temple made of cedar. Chapter 7, verse 8. So tell my servant David that I, the Lord Almighty, say to him, I took you from looking after sheep in the fields and made you the ruler of my people, Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone. I have defeated all your enemies as you advance. I will make you as famous as the greatest leaders in the world. I would I have chosen a place for my people Israel, and I've settled there where they will live without being oppressed anymore. Ever since they entered this land, they have been attacked by violent people, but this will not happen again. I promise to keep you safe from all your enemies and to give you descendants. When you die and are buried with your ancestors, I'll make one of your sons king, and I will keep his kingdom strong. He will be the one to build a temple for me. He will make sure that his dynasty continues forever. He will be his father, and I will be his father, and he will be my son. When he does wrong, I will punish him as a father punishes his son. But when but I will not withdraw my support from him as I did from Saul, whom I removed so that you could be a king. You will always have descendants, and I will make your kingdom last forever. Your dynasty will never end. Nathan told David everything God has revealed to him. Then King David went into the tent of the Lord's presence and sat down and prayed. I am not worthy of what I have already done. You have already done for me. Sovereign Lord, now is my family. Yet you are doing even more, Sovereign Lord. You have made promises about my descendants in the years to come, and you let a man see this, Sovereign Lord. What more can I say to you? You know me, your servant. It was your will and purpose to do this. You have done all these great things in order to teach me how great you are, sovereign Lord. There is none like you. We have always known that you alone are God. There is no other nation like on earth like Israel, whom you rescued from slavery to make them your own people. The great and wonderful things you did for them have spread your fame throughout the world. You drove out the nations and their gods as you people advanced, the people whom you set free from Egypt to be your own. You have made Israel your own people forever, and you, Lord, have become their God. And now, Lord God, fulfill all time the promise you made about me and my descendants. Do what you have said, and you would your fame will be great, and people will forever say, The Lord Almighty is God over Israel. And will you preserve my dynasty all time? Almighty Lord, God of Israel, I have the courage to pray this prayer to you because you have revealed all this to me, your servant, and you have told me that you make my descendants kings. And now, sovereign Lord, you are God. You always keep your promises. And you have made this wonderful promise to me. I ask you to bless my descendants so that they will continue to enjoy your favor. You, sovereign Lord, I promise this. Your blessings will rest on my descendants forever. The end of chapter 7. Chapter 8. Sometime later, King David attacked the Philistines again, defeated them, and ended their control over the land. Haba Shekaba. Then he defeated the Moabites. He made the prisoners in lie down on the ground and put two out of every three of them to death. So the Moabite became a subject and paid taxes to him. Then he defeated the king in Syrian state of Zorah, Hadassah son of Rehab. And as Hadassah was on his way to restore his control over the territory by the upper Euphrates, David captured 1,700 of his horsemen, 20,000 of his foot soldiers. He kept enough horses for 100 chariots and crippled the rest. When Syrians of Damascus sent an army to help King Hadassah, David attacked it and killed 22,000 men. Then he set up military camps in their territory. They became a subject and paid taxes to him. The Lord made David victorious everywhere. David captured the gold shields carried by Azada's officials and took them to Jerusalem. He also took a great quantity of bronze from Betha and Betra, cities ruled by Adazad. So he sent his son Joab to greet King David, congratulate him on his victory over Hadazad, against whom Toi had fought many times. Joram took David presents and made of gold, silver, and bronze. King David dedicated them for the use of in worship, along with the silver and gold he took from the nations he had conquered: Edom, Moab, Ammon, Philistia, Amalek, as well as part of the loot he had taken from Hadassah. David became even more famous when he returned from killing 18,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. He set up military camps throughout Edom, and the people there became his subjects. The Lord made David victorious everywhere. David ruled over all Israel and made them sure that all people were always treated fairly and justly. Joab, whose mother was Zeruiah, was the commander of the army. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahihud, was the child of the red horse. Zadok, son of Matthew, America, son of Abital, was priest. Syria was the court secretary. Benaiah, son of Judah, was child of David's bodyguard, and David's sons were priests. Chapter 9. Before we continue, there's a technical issue. Let us fix and we'll be right back. Thank you.